Joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast, he is a returning guest. I've talked to this person like so many times throughout the years, I've certainly lost track. Although at the same time, I feel like it's been a while. I can't even think of the last time that I had a conversation with him. I'm sure it had to surround the Knicks Bucks game. In any case, we will get into all that in a bit. He is the host of the Gyro Step. Yes, Gyro Step podcast, part of the Blue Wire podcast network. He also does a whole bunch of other stuff for Blue Wire. Really good friend of the pod. Ti Windisch, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. We'll have to celebrate Christmas together this year. We are the early Christmas game again, right?
It is the noon Christmas game.
Yeah.
Which I believe the Christmas game, it was, well, let's see. Frank was still like on the outskirts of the rotation. So it was 3 years ago?
It's been a while. We've had Knicks Bucks before, but they keep giving us Celtics and Sixers. And frankly, I was happy when the schedule came out. Not even just like a difficulty thing. The Knicks are pretty good too. But like, it's just more enjoyable for me on a holiday to not have to watch my team play the Celtics or Sixers. If the Bucks lose to the Knicks, I'm like, oh, that's too bad. That happens. Bucks lose to the Celtics or Sixers, or it's even close, or they have, I'm not having a good Christmas after that. They got drubbed by the Sixers a couple years ago. I did not have a holly jolly holiday season after that. I didn't. It sucks. So I'm very glad it's us again on Christmas this year.
Well, you want to talk about adding insult to injury, or maybe it's the other way around. I don't know. For that, the aforementioned Knicks Bucks Christmas game, which I think was 3 years ago. Andrew, I'm sure will correct me if I'm wrong. That morning, because I was still very much a part of the Frank Ntilikina stand-up, that morning my wife had given me, as part of my Christmas gift, I think it was a French Prince t-shirt, which was, there was some debate about which was the proper nickname for Frank Ntilikina, which I'm sure fascinates you as a non-Knick fan endlessly. The proper nickname for a fringe rotation player who
I love this kind of stuff, to be honest, but go on.
Isn't it great? Yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew's telling me it was a 2018-19 season. So hold on. Does that mean
5 years ago?
No. And I may need to call Andrew up here. That can't be 5 years ago.
It was Christmas 2018.
Wow.
So wait, hold on. We're sorry. We're sidetracking. The summer of 2019, when Durant didn't sign here, and then Fizdale got fired 20 some odd games into the next season. You're right. Holy shit.
The year before that.
Yes, because Fizdale was already fired by Christmas of the 29th. Oh my God, you're right. So I'm off by 2 years. My Lord.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew.
We're all old. Yeah,
we're all. It's just, you know what's crazy to me about this, and this is why I can't believe it, that it's 5 years ago. Because like the Frank thing seems like yesterday, and yet it's 5 years. Anyway, you had gotten me a French Prince T-shirt that morning, which I proudly wore to the family Christmas day event, and then we get to that game, and not only do the Bucks, I mean, I don't know if you remember that game. They whooped the floor, wiped the floor with the Knicks. But Frank Ntilikina, after his mother had come from somewhere across an ocean to watch him play, he did not get off the bench, and like there was no real rhyme or reason to it. The team like was ass. Everybody knew the team was ass. Like playing Frank, not playing Frank. Like, what the fuck did it matter?
Yeah.
And Coach Fizdale did not play Frank Ntilikina, so that was fun. How did we go down this? I was all set to do a podcast, and I was going to be like, "Hey, get ready to lose your best player." Probably the Lakers, but whatever, maybe the Knicks. And we went down this path. So I'll start with this. How you feeling? How you feeling as a Bucks fan these days? What's going on? What's going through your mind?
You know, it's funny. Our big takeaway on the pod after the New York Times interview of Giannis, that of course is, I would say, probably not lighting up the internet as much as I kind of expected. I think the reason is twofold. One, because, and this was our reaction, like we've done this before. I mean, this isn't the first time Giannis has said things like this. It's probably like the third or maybe fourth time. I mean, like a year ago, he was like, I might want to play for the Bulls someday. And everyone was like, that's kind of weird. And then we just never talked about it again. That was like a random, like, it's probably not serious because no one wants to play for the Bulls ever except Nikola Vucevic. But that's one reason.
$20 million.
Yeah, it's that I would play for the Bulls too for $60 million. Just saying. Karnasovis. But The other reason I think like football, of course, coming up. So there's all that stuff is going on, and baseball's doing its thing. I don't know how much that drives headlines. Yeah, it's summer as well. But I think the big sports news at the moment is certainly going to be football, even though the FIBA World Cup is very fun. As Knicks fans, I'm sure, are tuned into that and everything else. So pretty much the same, honestly. Like still more thinking about schematically what will change with a new head coach and Adrian Griffin this year. I think the general sentiment for Bucks fans outside of like myself and our podcasters is like, here we go again, oh, here we go again with all this, which I think I haven't seen as much rage this time so far, which is good. When Stephen A gets to it on the content calendar, I think that'll piss people off more. Of course.
Wait. Why would you care?
I'm not saying I care.
Okay.
I'm a Bucks. Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for Stephen A and what he's built himself. All the respect.
Incredible entertainer. Yeah.
Thank you for using that word. But like, if you care about what he says, that is a personal choice, but that's how you want to consume entertainment / content. Okay. As long as we agree that what he says doesn't actually matter, we can continue.
No. ESPN at large. I mean, there's going to be the Giannis segments if there already has been, but I think the Bucks fans are a little more numb to it now and just kind of know the deal. And I think understand like it's a fair deal as long as they're competitive with a championship runway. I think they have a good shot at keeping him. I still think that's the case. I think he said that again, like he always includes that in there. I want to stay, but if I have to leave, I'll leave, basically. And to me, it's always felt like pressuring the organization as much as doing like the PR stuff to, get people thinking about him leaving. And I don't have a problem with that. I think you look at the greatest players in league history and they've either been part of dynasties with their teams or they've left their teams. And that's like really without exception. I mean, Duncan, I was just that video about how Duncan almost teamed up with Grant Hill and Orlando's going around again. Like, these guys, even the guys who are the pinnacle of loyalty had their moments. Kobe was almost got out of LA before they went and got Pau. Like, there's a push and pull with these players. Teams have to earn it. I don't have a problem with that being the arrangement. There is a lot of pressure on the Bucks. I don't think they're going to lose them like in the next year. I think it's all about the transition from Chris and Drew to whoever's next. And we can talk about it. I think they're set up to do that moderately well. But they have to nail it, and that's part of having a guy like Giannis. I think that's a fair arrangement between superstar and franchise.
You threw a lot out there. I was like literally writing.
I talk a lot, man. That's my bad.
Do you have a podcast? I was like kept writing down things. I want to go back to a lot of different either things you said directly or ideas that came to mind as you were talking. Let's start. Well, you mentioned Duncan, actually. Just get this out of the way. If you think about now, look, what Duncan would have done had this not transpired, who knows? But like, it took the Spurs drafting 2 Hall of Famers, and I think 2 guys who, in my personal opinion, not that that matters, had a pretty good argument for the top 75 ever. I think at the end, I'm trying to think if I think I might have had Tony Parker in my personal list. I think I may have had Ginobili a little bit on the outside, but like whatever. You could have made arguments for both guys. And then if you want to throw like Kawhi Leonard in there, like getting him essentially at the 15th pick in the draft with the George Hill trade, like did it take those events like to keep him around? I don't know. Maybe once he bypassed Orlando, like that was his chance to leave, and and that was like kind of earlier than when Parker and Ginobili really hit. But regardless, that's such an anomalous situation, and Tim Duncan is such I feel like an anomalous guy. So I don't think that's a fair comparison. And I think what you said, I think who else would you even say? I guess Dirk and Steph.
Yeah, but it's like all it took for Steph was, them being the best team of the last 20 years or whatever, and winning another one even post KD. But it's pretty easy to not leave when you're playing in San Francisco and you've won 4 titles and, you've had this core that came up with you, and then they threw in KD and now you have these kids and you win another one. It's like, when could Steph have left? Right? When would it have ever made any sense for Steph to ask out?
Like the 2 timelines thing may not actually work, but like it was such a fortuitous set of circumstances, kind of in a weird way, kind of well, they hoped it would mirror the David Robinson getting injured, and then it hasn't quite worked out that way. But in any case, it's like, and Steph was the one who got injured too. That's the other part of it. It wasn't like he had to sit and like be an active player through all that. Anyway, unique circumstances. Giannis is no one's saying he's James Harden. He's just like a normal superstar athlete, which I think is fine. I guess what I'm wondering at this point, most of all, I'm going to go micro and then I'll probably zoom out from here. You mentioned you thought they were somewhat well set up, or as well set up as they could be, to transition from Drew, Chris, Brooke, et cetera. How do you see that going? Because I see 3 older, expensive players and not a whole lot of exciting young talent on the roster, and there's still some picks out the door. So just like, can you vamp on that for a minute? Like, what do you see? How do you see this going?
Yeah, so the date I've been targeting actually for about a year now is draft day next summer. They'll be able to trade 2 future firsts, which I think, just as when they dealt with New Orleans, those future firsts will also be advertising. Maybe it'll be New Orleans again. Quite honestly, I think Brandon Ingram would be a really fun fit. And if New Orleans is kind of just still stuck in the mud, like, will they look to move one of those guys? I think they kind of will. They also are really high on Trey. I see Pelicans people talk about Trey Murphy like he's already better than Brandon Ingram, which I don't think, but whatever. That's really in the weeds. That's different podcast right there. But also the guy they picked, they'll be able to trade. So every other year they'll have a pick on draft day. They didn't last year. They will next year. So basically,
it's essentially 3 firsts.
3 firsts. I mean, 1 is not going to be as appetizing, right? Assuming something doesn't go horrific this year, which would be bad. I mean, I think they're going to win a lot of games almost no matter what. I mean, the team is still very good. The East is top heavy, but not like a murderer's row throughout, like the West is gearing up to be again. So, let's say it's like the 20th to 30th pick, somewhere in there. Not very good, but a first round pick, a salary scale player. So 3 firsts. And I think all of the players they have, and a bad year could change this for almost anyone, they're all at best neutral value contracts, and at worst neutral value contracts, at best better than that. So I think you look at their trade chips on draft day, and it'll be, we have the salary pieces to make almost anyone fit. We have some young players. I think Marjon Beauchamp will play this year. We'll see what kind of year he has. He's 2 second round rookies that I think are very raw. I don't know if they'll have a ton of value, but they'll throw in whatever. We'll see again if they get to play at all. So I think they'll be able to make something happen. It probably won't be, a Luka Doncic kind of player who won't be available anyway. But if it's like, we see a Brandon Ingram, a DeJounte Murray, Drew Holiday back when the Bucks got him, 3 firsts and good players on salary. I think you can make that work. And just a fit, like a 28-year-old guy on the Giannis timeline who fits well with him, I think makes all the difference in the world. Like a more athletic, younger pick and roll partner than Chris. You're still going to have some role players around there. I think that's the game plan. I think this year, they're not old enough that they can't compete, especially with a little bit more athleticism in the rotation. Getting Wes and Joe Ingles out of there as good as they were at times, moving in Beauchamp in year 2, Malik Beasley a lot younger and more spry than those guys. I think they're well set up to compete. And then whether you win or not, I think this summer they're going to be looking at making that pivot, whether it's adding to the core, can you bring in a player with Chris and Drew, or does one of those guys have to go out for, X? I mean, this is a name that people are very different on. Zach LaVine. Is Zach LaVine available?
You took the words out of my mouth, because so all the names started popping up in context with the Knicks early in the summer, and fans were quick to shoot them down as targets. And I think justifiably so, because the front office ended up not making a move for any of those lesser options, because, and I love Jalen Brunson more than anyone, but like, if Jalen Brunson is still your best player and you're adding whether it's a LaVine or a Karl Anthony Towns, or name anyone in this kind of class of Bradley Beal, we had a Bradley Beal discussions. Like, it's still like, okay, so like what's your ceiling here really? You guys have the luxury of like, you get to Giannis bringing Antetokounmpo. So like, we don't need to do the Zach LaVine, Giannis fit or anybody, but like just the notion that like a B level star, but the right age range. You know what? Honestly, I really hadn't given enough thought to the draft pick thing and the fact that you really would be able to put together a nice package. And then as far as the contract stuff, What's Portis's deal? I like Portis's deal. I remember I liked it.
Like 11 million a year. That they're so.
That's a steal in this market.
Yeah,
it really is.
And he's got a couple more years. I think Grayson maybe is expiring now or next year, but like this year it's like $9 million. Pat is like $10 million, which he's getting a little older.
I love Pat Connaughton.
He had a great playoffs. Yeah, I'm all in. I hope they don't trade him. I'm all in on Pat. So it's like, you know, like when John Collins got traded for like basically just bloated salary. Bucks fans and Monty Morris too was like this, where it's like, oh, why didn't the Bucks go get this guy? They could use a backup point guard. They don't have the dead cap. Like they don't have the Fournier, to use the Knicks example, where it's like, yeah, we don't care about this guy. We'll bring in a player. You have to trade a rotational player. I think it's going to be actually kind of hard for them to make a big midseason trade because you have to give up a rotation player unless you're getting someone who makes almost nothing, which those players typically like, you know, Quickly. The Bucks fans are obsessed with Quickly. He's obviously made little for a while. Oh yeah. Because there was like one rumor and then he went on a tear right after. And then the reporting was like, yeah, that's not happening now. But he's one of those guys that Bucks fans really wanted to take the swing on. And I still would really like to. But now it's like, I think he's like, I wouldn't look at him, no offense to Emmanuel Quickly, as the Levine kind of guy you can bring in. I don't think he's quite there. Maybe someday, but that's a tough risk when you have Giannis. And you mentioned Beal just quickly. The reporting is the Bucks were all over that. So that's why I think like I
remember that.
It's not reckless speculation to think the Bucks are going to go after this like late 20s, maybe around 30 perimeter player who they just have never had someone like that with Giannis. Like as flawed as Beal can be.
You don't consider Middleton to be in the Beal kind of category?
I'm not saying Chris isn't that talent wise, but you know, Chris is not a great dribbler, right? Like for all the stuff Chris can do, like someone who's even more adept at the pick and roll. Chris is certainly the best pick and roll partner they've had with Giannis, and that is a deadly play type because Chris doesn't need to be open, but that additional speed and handle I think could be really devastating. And like between Drew's shooting, foibles here and there, although the pull-ups have been very good sometimes, and Chris not having the most deft handle, I think someone like Beal in there could really supercharge that action for Milwaukee.
Yeah, no, 100%. The Quickly thing is interesting. I'm going to choose my words carefully here, otherwise Andrew's going to come on and yell at me. I'm on the lower end in terms of like there are a lot of Knicks fans out there, and I think there's evidence to justify this, who do really think like this guy is a capital S star in a different situation where he's not essentially playing behind. He's not technically playing behind Jalen Brunson, but he kind of is. Basically, in a situation where his growth prospects are not limited by the fact that there is a small guard that already has a very important job for the Knicks, and he is, also a small guard, albeit one who's an excellent off-ball defender. I don't know. I'd be actually really curious to see what he would do as like a third cog with like Giannis as your number one. I don't know that I feel great about it if like either Drew or Chris was like my number two. Like I would want like a really dynamite number two, and then Quickly is almost like the number three. That would be interesting to me. I don't know if I see a trade there, but I don't
really either, especially given what the Knicks are attempting to do with Giannis and everyone else who I think is going to be available.
Yeah, I mean we could start to get into that. But actually, before we do I want to go back for one more second in terms of, because to me, when you're in a situation like this, like you guys are in, where you explained it perfectly. It's like, all right, well, like whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I think my instinct in times of like this, not that we've ever had a situation like you guys are in, but where like something is coming or something could be coming, and then you already start to think, well, if it goes the wrong way, you think about regrets that you could have had along the way. Like, does it bug you at all? Does any one or two or whatever things but like DiVincenzo, like nothing happened with DiVincenzo. I'm not saying DiVincenzo is God's gift. I like him. He's a nice player, but like that, I don't know if go back to like Jabari. Like, is there anything that like really sticks in your craw as a Bucks fan? Like, man, if we had just like done this better or nailed this, maybe we wouldn't be in the situation.
I mean, the 19 playoff run, just how close they were when they lost to Toronto. They were like a
Up 2-0,
fraction.
right?
Yeah, fraction from up 3-0. I mean, there was like a weird out of bounds play off Siakam and Chris that led to that Toronto barely winning that game 3. And, as much as they ended up winning the finals that year, down 3-0 is a different animal. And I think psychologically is so different. So that series in itself, I think, is one of them. And we did a whole rewatch of that series for some god awful idea. And like the way they defended.
That's like a great idea.
Oh no, it was not for us.
It might not have been fun for you, but it sounds like a good idea.
Well, we learned. I mean, like the way they kept sending help at Kawhi and just giving up wide open like shots and threes in the strong side corner, which is like why no wonder Fred VanVleet went off. Yeah, no, not at all. And I think he got better overall, but then had a low point in the playoffs, which the coaching comment from Giannis was funny because all the reporting was he was all in on Adrian Griffin. Well, he said, we've got to see how the coaching staff comes together, which again is fair, but it's like this was the guy you really wanted, Giannis. So I would hope you're high on the prospect. But it's again it's a fair thing to say on its face for sure. I mean, if it doesn't work out, then that's going to be a tough spot for the Bucks.
First time coach, yeah.
But yeah, so 2019 series, the roster moves, none of them get at me that bad, to be honest. Like the Brogdon trade was really bad in the moment, but I find it hard to believe he wouldn't have gone out for Drew in that move anyway. And I just don't know if that's a difference maker in the bubble when the Bucks were just like not playing well. And, I just don't think Brogdon's the difference between that Heat buzzsaw that it was, maybe.
Couldn't you argue the other way that if they had kept Brogdon, is there a chance they don't?
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Is to move for Drew, which then that could be even worse. Anyway,
So I think getting Drew and then winning 21 absolved a lot of things before that. I think 22 the Celtics lost. I find it hard to look back with a lot of regrets. I mean, obviously, if Chris didn't get hurt, that'd be great. Taking Boston through 6.5 games, that Boston team without any Chris. I mean, I think like that's probably one of the few playoff series where I walked away from like this really sucks. I actually thought they were going to find a way to do it. But I mean, Chris is like the Celtics killer. You didn't have him at all. That's a pretty good showing. This last year just really sucked. I mean, I don't know what one thing. So like the Dante thing. I was
waiting to bring it up.
Yeah. The Dante thing, though, I think people still look back at that like, oh, they should have gotten more. He was expiring. I don't think they were going to re-sign him. He was killing them when he played. He came back from the injury and just really not helping the Bucks win at all that year. Did a
deep dive on his shooting progression really throughout his career when it was pretty clear they were going to sign him, and like when he came back from an injury, it was
like the plus. It's just like the simple plus minus every game he was out. Like the net rating when he was on the court was horrible. So they opened
sample size too. That's the only thing. Like it wasn't a ton of games, so that's why I was like, okay. My justification for like going after him hard is like if you take that season out of his resume, it's a steady,
he's a pretty good shooter,
steady upward progression. Yeah.
Yeah. Although the Warriors impact can't be, I can't wait to see him on the Knicks. I mean, when he went to Golden State, I was like, oh, that's exactly what he needs. It's so wide open for him. And I think his worst thing is not shooting, but like he gambles a lot defensively and his rim finishing is just such an adventure. And it's often not a fun one. We'll see. He looked great in Golden State. I'm not as optimistic about that, but one of the roster spots they opened up with that deal, they did end up getting Trevon Carter, who I think has just been better for them than Dante would have been. It's like, you probably could have found a different way to do that, etc. But they like traded Dante, Rodney Hood, and Shemi Ojeleye, who were all horrible, and got Serge and opened up a couple roster spots. So, I don't think it's as horrible of a deal as people make it out to be. I don't think they would have re-signed him either. I think he would have left like he did the Kings, but yeah, not great, but overall, I think the way 21 and 22 went, I don't have as many regrets. I just wish they had played better in some playoffs and tried some different things, but transactionally, I don't honestly have a ton.
I feel like there is, I don't know, it's weird. I'm going to talk my way through this and feel free to jump in and call me an idiot at any time. Despite the fact that Giannis had the Celtics series that you referenced from a year ago, that's one of the greatest playoff series I've ever seen anybody play. Certainly in a losing series, because God knows that wasn't his fault. I think he just ran out of gas at the end of Game 7.
The whole team did, honestly. I think like they folded, which
it shouldn't have even probably gotten that far. But then again, we've learned a lot about the Celtics over the last few years. And then to have arguably the greatest closeout game in NBA Finals history, and he's obviously had other big games. I do feel like there is still a a modest narrative out there that Giannis is like, not, I don't want to say like not a big time postseason player, but like his postseason track record is uneven. And this year, but again, it's tough because I was going to say this year added to the unevenness, but he also got injured.
Yeah.
So like, is there any at all within Milwaukee fandom, like any blame on Giannis for the fact that Milwaukee has not done as well during like they've been in it for 5-6 straight years, but like don't have another championship or maybe didn't win another series or something? Does that exist at all?
I don't think so. 2020, he also got hurt and wasn't good enough. Something about playing the Heat, man. But I mean, I think there are things he could do better. I think just team-wide shot selection, which is probably his biggest playoff foible, is, some of the jumpers and then some of the early shot clock, like, mostly jumpers. People find it hard to be mad at his drives. I sometimes think he should be a little more, let's try and get a better look than just go at the whole team, but he has enough success doing it. But I think that's more of a team issue. I mean, they've played the let it fly thing under Bud, and there are certainly bigger culprits, Drew Holiday, that you can look at from this past series and before with the shot selection, where it's like, that's really like you're feeding into their run right now by taking these bad looks. So no, I don't think really, there's always going to be a few loud people who, well, I'm sure you're very familiar. Yeah. Related to
like
sports.
On the internet?
I know, it's a crazy concept. Who think, he's got to start doing this. He has to stop doing that, whatever. Right. I think by and large, people recognize like he's always the straw that stirs the drink. None of this is even close to possible. I mean, I think they've done a pretty solid job building around him, given you've had to compete every year and you pushed in so many chips already. But we all know without him on this roster, they're not anywhere close to this, right? So I don't think there's too much. I think people are generally understanding of how important and how great he is.
If Jokic is the guy that I think I don't know about you, maybe you're biased, but like he's my number one of like if I have any NBA player over the next 5 years. I'm a big Doncic guy, but that man Giannis, what he gives you in both directions, and I've thought about like him and like Brunson specifically because he's the only player I really truly care about on the Knicks in terms of like forecasting like the roster moving forward.
Right.
I think those two guys be just fine together.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I don't have any concerns. We're not there yet though. Okay. So you mentioned he has made comments before, so you're not too worried. I do want to specifically go back to when they traded for Drew and then Giannis extended. There was a lot of speculation before that about what would happen, and then obviously he ended up extending. Does it bother you, or have you even thought about it at all, the fact that leading up to that extension, unless there was, and I missed it, there didn't seem to be any pointed comments to the level of these comments, and the fact now we are getting these pointed comments. Does that discrepancy bother you, or do you think about it at all?
Not really. They did like a media press conference thing the Bucks did before he signed that year. And it was probably the most like weird and uncomfortable I've heard Giannis. I mean, he kept saying like, it's just between my agents and the team and, still negotiating. And it was like, I mean, we all know the deal. I mean, there's not much of a negotiation here, Giannis. Here is the most we could offer you. Let us know what the options or whatever you want. I mean, we all, So even if there wasn't a story like this, and I don't remember if there was, I'm sure a Bucks fan could correct me. And on this date, this was said, whatever.
I don't remember one. Again,
maybe there's not.
Me, but
I know, like, last year, 2 years ago in GQ, he said, my journey has been here. I love it here, but I could go elsewhere. I mean, there's been over the years, and just like the vibe around 19 or 20, I should say, was very much like, we'll see. Like it until he announced that he was signing it. They're like, we were having to talk about like, do you get ahead of it and trade him? And the answer, to be clear, hell no. Like you take every season. Like unless the only way they should ever consider, even ponder trading Giannis is if he says, I demand a trade, right? Like, I don't want to play here. Then
I want to come back to this.
Yeah.
But finish. Yeah.
But, with this team and everything, it's, you don't you can't win that. You're not winning that trade. All the picks, all the kids, that's fine. Whatever. You're not winning that trade. So no, I don't think it feels that different. I think it wouldn't surprise me if, just like last time, he needs to see some sort of a move or something before he does put pen to paper and sign the thing, which, again, I just think, not that I'm not worried at all. Not that I think they're for sure signing him. I don't want to make it sound like, I'm huffing copium and I'm just like, yeah, 100% he's going to resign and everything else. But I just think their position is what it's been for, basically since 22, since, 1 year after the title, which is, well, it's time to prove it again, because we've known for a while that they'd have to do so. They have to pivot eventually, because we all know, Giannis, when you're talked about in that upper echelon of great players, that guy's not going to be happy with winning one and then filling seats and making all NBA teams for the next 10 years. Hopefully he plays that much longer. So we've all known this is coming. And I think the kind of pressure he's putting on is it's not unduly like harsh. I think obviously we read all his comments. I didn't think it came off as like, I'm out of here. Although, of course, there are a lot of fans of other teams and analysts and everything who will think that. Again, I just think it's like, that's where we're at. I think that's the landscape, and I don't mind him just saying it and keeping it real to an extent and making sure there's no confusion in the Bucks front office about what they have to do.
Speaking of the Bucks front office, so I'm going to put you in an unfair position. We get to next summer. And I mean, it doesn't even really matter for this hypothetical. Whatever happens, either they do stuff or they aren't able to do stuff, or they don't do stuff in terms of like the sorts of moves we were, referencing before. And he either comes out and says or makes it known, I am not signing an extension this summer. I am taking this to unrestricted free agency. Do you think there will be a discussion I'm sure there'll be a discussion amongst the fan base. Do you think the team at that point would consider trying to, or exploring the trade? And I hold on. I know I just asked a question. I'm going to let you answer it. But even as I say that, I'm catching myself, because I'm like, is that even the way it goes anymore? Like, players either ask out or it's not like, players don't leave it up to team anymore. So I'm just going to throw it to you. Like, let's say he doesn't extend this next summer. How do you think that goes? I'll just open it.
I would hope they don't. And I don't think they will. I mean, I think you look at it from like even just strategic, trying to extend the era. The best outcome for the Bucks at that point is they have a really good season. They go to the finals or win the finals. And then, the other thing out of this Giannis story is like, he's cheap, right? And he doesn't want to, that's like, he's got that LeBron thing where he doesn't want to spend his money and he wants to, maximize it. All the Google plugs he does on social and everything. You're still in a position, even though it doesn't matter because all the money is so big now. But if you have a good season, you can still give him the biggest deal that anyone can. And I do think that matters a little bit. It's not, the end all be all, but the extra year and the bigger raises. And you can still say at that point, Giannis, if you want to go somewhere else, we understand. We are willing to give you the 5-year, $500 million or whatever the hell it's going to be contract. And of course, you still have so much control over the roster. If you want Thanasis to come back again, I know he's talking to the Knicks for the third straight year at this point, but we're willing to do that. You want Brooke and Robin back, whatever, we'll figure it out. So I think it's always the right move to ride it out, because I think you try and get ahead of it. Who knows, what's going to come out later. That's all it takes is one Giannis interview where he goes, oh, I would have loved that one more ride. For now, everyone in Milwaukee to hate that front office. I think you'd rather risk it. Although, of course, it's horrible if he walks for nothing and then your franchise is just kind of bad. I think your franchise is going to be bad even if you trade him. I like whatever the haul is, however many 12-year-olds you get back. It's all just mystery boxes. Give me the 1 year of Giannis, because I mean, how many teams right now would kill for 1 year of Giannis versus all of the lottery picks they've had over the last decade or whatever?
The part about walking for nothing, that's the part, not specifically that, but the concept of that is what's most fascinating to me, just in terms of what interests me most about the NBA. Because, and I'm not saying that I'm actually, the Knicks, there are teams that I think will be rumored, specifically one, maybe both teams in LA, to be of interest to Giannis if he indeed wants to go to Los Angeles. That could very easily, as I'm sure you know, open up cap space in the relevant summer that we're talking about 2 years from now, and just sign him outright and potentially even give him an opportunity to try to build a roster around him. The notion of that, I think, is not quite as realistic / appealing as it was maybe once upon a time. You referenced the Tim Duncan flirtation with Orlando, where it was like, Duncan, Hill, and T-Mac.
Yeah, we'll just sign them all. Why not?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's not really the sort of thing that could happen anymore. But just talking about it from a Knicks perspective, like if he didn't extend next summer, and the Knicks knew it was going to go to the summer of 2025, like I do wonder how they, or even like a team like the Heat, they have a lot of money on the books already. Like I wonder how, if at all, that would impact their decision making, their thought process. Will we see an effort by even like one team to like try to clear the books?
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to that question, and it's something I will probably spend some more time thinking about. But it's
a little funny because teams got burned trying it last time. I think the Heat a little bit. Oh, you mean
like the Knicks?
The Knicks and the Raptors as well. I mean, there was teams that were we're going to really structure to be able to do this. And then it went away in an instant, and it was like, oh, it's okay. So that sucks. I guess we don't really know what we're doing now. So it is precarious, right? Like the Clippers opening that new building.
It's not a sound strategy. If you happen into it, like the Lakers have kind of like, how often do the Lakers step in shit?
Yeah, it's
very frustrating. Anyway, yeah. But yeah, I agree with you. It's
especially now in the league where it seems like cap space is just becoming more and more like, if we have a bunch, we can get Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, right? Like it's, in years past, the Rockets would have been able to add like a real all-star player, usually going into a summer with the most cap space, big market, wanting to throw it at someone. It wouldn't surprise me. And I said this when he signed the Supermax extension, like, does he sign again with an understanding that in a year or two, even with X number of years left, he's able to ask out and they won't do what the Blazers are doing, right? Would that shock me? No, it wouldn't. And I think that it's mutually beneficial because he gets to lock in that money, and the Bucks, then you're getting something. And, as much as people have, poo-pod the Heat package, I don't want to get that. That's been done to death by everyone, right? But, you get 3 first-round picks, a couple of young players. It's something to build around going forward. It's better than literally nothing. But again, I'm only saying, to be clear, I would only do that if Giannis was like, hey, you got to go trade me now. I would not. If he's unclear, I'm like, okay, let's try it out the year. Again, I'll rather have Giannis than Jaime Jaquez and Nikola Jovic.
But see, to me, all this is tied together, the whole player empowerment. Like if there is somewhere that Giannis can walk to, again, the Lakers, right? Because they're the ones who are probably most easily positioned to have that space at this point. Like, does that impact his ability? And I know we're getting way. I thank you for humoring me with this conversation, even because it's so far ahead of where we should be at this point. But like, does that impact sign and trade potential / possibilities? Or like, I don't know. That's the part of it that's probably most interesting to me.
But just real quick, because we keep getting back to LA and New York, it wouldn't surprise me if he went to a smaller place. Really? And I know he said the Bulls. Oh yeah, he doesn't like LA. Like he's a couple times, I think, at least one very notable. He got very bothered by like the paparazzi and everything in LA. And especially now that he has a couple of small kids, I think he likes being like in Milwaukee, like Giannis like goes to restaurants. Like people see Giannis out, and like there's very much an understood, like you kind of wave, really cool. You don't go over and bother him. Like it's that idea. I'm almost more worried, and especially because we know what his priority is, right? Like he really wants to win. And of course, New York and LA really often help with that. But like, if I'm Giannis, okay, I can go play with Anthony Davis. We'll probably figure out another star or whatever, or the Clippers and just, be on a cursed franchise and, bad things usually happen. Or like, can I go play with Luka? Can I go play with Shea and J-Dub? And Oklahoma City is a very extreme example. Maybe that would never happen. But I think, or like Miami, the culture there and the history, I do think, again, Bam and Giannis is not ideal either. Yeah. Jimmy will be old. But that idea of like, I think he's going to want to go somewhere where he's going to be able to compete first. And I don't think the market size is necessarily even second as like a positive for like, he needs to go play in LA. I mean, he is a superstar icon in Greece, around the world. He will be wherever he goes to play. I think that running mate may be the most important thing if this does happen.
You named the team. It's the Mavs.
Yeah, I kind of think those two teams are like staring at each other. Like, can one of us, if one of us just falls apart first, the other one will be like, gimme.
I have a tough time seeing. Look, this is going to sound very harsh against Milwaukee, but something about Luka in Milwaukee.
I think that way is harder. Yeah, that way is probably harder. Yeah,
I don't know. I could obviously be wrong. Giannis going to Dallas.
That's a scary one for everyone.
That's obviously frightening for the entire league. And like basketball wise, like it certainly makes sense. That goes without saying. Okay, I don't want to talk about that anymore.
I don't either, to be clear. I'm not a big fan of the idea myself, quite honestly.
Two quick ones, so that I'll get you out of here. One current Bucks related and one not Bucks related at all, or not current Bucks related. Well, a little bit. Who do you fear the most in the East, or actually in the league this year?
Well, in the East, I'd say Boston, but then I think when I ranked this, I went on the chase down and I hurt their feelings. I put the Knicks over the Cavs, which I think
it's too bad.
Well, I mean, it's what I saw. I think the Cavs got better. I think the Knicks maybe got a little better, but I got to see something else. It's like when you said the Jokic thing, to me, Giannis is the best player in the world forever and always. But I am not arguing with anyone who puts Jokic number one right now, whether it's for next season or for the next 5, because he just did the thing. And I think when you do the thing, you get credit.
He did the thing.
The Knicks didn't do the whole thing, but they did the beat Cavs thing. And I'm going to give them credit for that until I see otherwise. But like, I don't like the Sixers, I think are a joke. Like I think the Knicks have as much playoff equity as the Sixers. Yeah, I've been saying this. I don't believe in them. I think they're a sham. A very adorable baby is now on the feed. This is great. I'm totally sidetracked.
It's summertime. Kids are in their respective daycares.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
But in the NBA, I mean, the Nuggets, I just don't like. I've wanted to see the Bucks face off with the Lakers more because I think Giannis LeBron series would be really cool. But that'd
be so much fun.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. But I just think they know how to handle that team, like that idea of a team. I don't think anyone, and certainly not the Bucks who barely play them, and Jokic doesn't always go to Milwaukee, they don't know how to deal with the Nuggets. And I just think it would be very difficult for them to handle matching up with the Nuggets. So that's really the only team where I'm like, oh, I think that team, like I really worry about the Bucks being able to beat that team. I think they can. We'll see how much they get in their own way. Beat anyone else. I'm not saying they will, but I'm not too worried about anyone in the East. I don't love Boston summer, and I don't think the Cavs are there yet. I think they have some big matchup problems against the Bucks, and the Knicks clearly are like good and they'll make you work. But I just think there's a talent difference there that is too much to overcome.
I'll just say, from my own personal opinion, there's no team.
Oh, and the Heat are going to be scary again. We'll see what their team is. We don't know.
The Heat.
Yeah.
Can I jump in? Because I did the chase down and did the same ranking. Ty, can I get, just for clarification, what was your 1 through 6? Because that's the question Justin asked. So what is
Celtics, Heat. Did I put Knicks third? I think I did, because I've been trashing the Sixers the whole way.
Well, Milwaukee first.
Am I forgetting? Oh, Milwaukee first.
Where's Milwaukee?
So threats to Milwaukee. Milwaukee, I put first consistently. Okay. So that makes sense. Yeah, Milwaukee, Boston, Miami, Knicks, Cavs, and then I feel like I'm forgetting another team now. But
did you put the Sixers 6th, or did you put a different team 6th?
No, the Sixers 6th. Then, yeah. No one is. No one else is.
Just two things. What was what, Andrew?
Well, no, just were you operating on Dame going to Miami, and that's why they're third?
Yeah, or just like, I mean, they're gonna like Jaime Jaquez is gonna be like 16-6. I just feel like they're gonna. I do think they will get Dame still. I'm operating on like. They'll either figure that out or they'll figure something else out. Like I'm
that's
not
a culture pick. Them as thing.
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, Jimmy, I think was this playoff equity or regular season that we did, or maybe he asked me to do both. But I think playoff equity for sure. Them up there just because they'll figure something. And Jimmy in one series a year is going to be a god apparently.
Two things. One, your comment about I'm not really worried about the East. Big Ja Morant energy there.
I'm not playing the games, though. I'm not playing the games.
That's fine. No, I love it. And two, what I was going to say, this is obviously a compliment. There's no team that I go into the game feeling less hopeful of a win than Milwaukee. And that's the entire league.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have done pretty well against us for one. Although we play guys tough.
You play really hard because you guys, the Knicks always play super hard, and the perimeter players, I think, like whether it's the shooting or the driving, especially as the Bucks have gotten older, I think the Knicks youth really, like, there's always a small guy in the Knicks who's just feels like he's killing, and it changes all the time. But I think that's why, like, they were in it quickly. There's people who like Grimes, because all these guys, it feels like they have one like 15-point quarter against the Bucks.
John, what would your 6 be?
In the East,
this isn't a
right now?
This wasn't a playoff equity. I think the way
like regular season standings.
The way I interpreted it was if you were to decide the 1 through 6 seeds.
I'd slide the Heat down a little bit. Then I think I might have had the Cavs even higher regular season, but then in the playoffs I moved them down. I think the Cavs will win a bunch of games.
Yeah, the playoff equity, Jimmy Butler.
That's the guy.
Put him ahead of the Celtics, and I'd understand. You know,
regular season. I mean, off the top of my head, Milwaukee, Boston.
I put the Cavs there. I don't trust the Sixers. I think this is the year it finally all really comes apart. I've said this for 3 years, though.
I'm toying with putting the fucking Knicks third, which is probably insane.
Do it for the
I don't think it's insane at all.
It might not be insane, but like, again, we're just looking like final regular season standings. Could I see the Knicks finishing third in the East? I could see it. I could also see them finishing 7th or 8th. But I could say that about.
I'd be pretty surprised at 8th.
There's a Thibodeau floor here with this amount of talent that I think they're.
I think 6. I think 6 because there could be, like, I look at, and I don't think they're going to be better, to be clear, before the Knicks fans, of which there are many. But like, if Indiana or Orlando had a weirdly good year, I wouldn't be stunned. I kind of like what those teams are building.
I don't know about Orlando.
I really like Indiana.
Would I like be knocked over if like the Pacers finished with a better record than the Knicks? I gotta say I wouldn't. But that goes for like the Hawks.
Oh yeah, the Hawks too.
Another team in there that I'm forgetting. But again, before anybody comes and wants to kill me, I could very well see the Knicks finishing third. I just think there's a lot. I mean, here, there's a shocker. There's a lot of talent in the league right now. There's a lot of really good fucking teams, and there's very few teams trying to lose. And when you get very few teams trying to lose, and there are really not any games to speak of, give or take a Washington, I guess, or maybe a Portland.
I think Detroit. I think Detroit will be pretty bad still.
But even like we heard all the Cade stuff coming out of the select games or whatever. Like games that you just look at and be like, oh, great, there's a schedule win, you know, or this team sucks. Like there's so few of those games now. To me, that introduces a level of variance into team records where unless you are Milwaukee, Denver.
Is that it? Is that the list?
Who's the other that you'd bet your life is going to win like 52, 53 or more games?
Boston.
Who?
Boston.
I think probably yes, because the world is unjust, but I don't like what they've done.
I don't think either. There's a regular season floor of 50 wins.
I think there's a lower regular season floor with that team where if you told me that the Celtics were not going to win 50 games this year due to KP injury, due to not having a freaking
already happened.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that's absolutely possible. Like, if you told me the Knicks were going to finish with a better record than the Celtics, again, would not be shocked. But I just think there's so much variance.
Wouldn't be shocked is the correct.
I'd be surprised. I
think it's more of a Tatum gamble that, you know, how Simmons has always said, like, I judge players, but like, you're guaranteed 50 wins. Like, your floor because of how good
Tatum's not that.
I think the Jays together are. I think the Jays together are guaranteed 50 wins if they're healthy.
I think I agree.
Maybe you guys might be proven right. We'll see. But yeah, for me, my own personal, like, I know this team is going to win 50 games provided average health. It's the Bucks. It's the Nuggets. That's honestly, that's.
Really I think Phoenix probably did. I think Phoenix is probably there. I think Phoenix is there.
But then again, how much
average health is a big thing. But
that's. But
if they have even two of those guys, they're going to blitz a lot of teams that are just.
That's why you get 3.
Yeah, exactly. So,
this was great. I got to get going. I have to ask you one last thing.
Yeah.
For reasons known only between me and my God, I answered a reader question over the course of 3 newsletters this week, or it will be 3 newsletters.
I love the off season.
To rank every franchise's best player And the reader's goal was to try to get Reggie Miller last in this ranking. Spoiler alert, Reggie Miller's not going to be last in this ranking.
Oh, but all time.
I did go through each team, and I really did the exercise. And I got to Milwaukee, and I tried to really give it like an unbiased, objective look in between, obviously, Giannis and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
Giannis has played 10 seasons. Kareem has played 6. I originally went with Giannis, and then I really took a look at those Kareem seasons, and I'm like,
crazy.
I don't need to tell you. They're some of the greatest seasons in NBA history by the same player to start his career in the same place. Do you think Giannis is overtaking Kareem, or are you kind of on the fence, or where are you at with that?
I think best is actually, it's a pure preference thing at this point, which is also kind of how I think about the point guard thing that's enveloping everything. Like I think either side is pretty fair. I think greatest it's Giannis because he stayed longer and the way he won the finals. Kareem's was more dominant, but that meant he actually didn't have to have the kind of heroics. I mean, Kareem's best ever shot in Milwaukee, they lost the series. It was the skyhook in Boston to send the series to 7, and they went and lost game 7. When they won, I think they lost like 1 or 0 playoff games in that run. They just steamrolled in 71. So the way Giannis did it, I give almost extra points. And then he's been here already almost twice as long. I mean, assuming this year plays out, he'll only be 1 season away from 12. So I give Giannis greatest best. I think there are people who believe strongly either way. I think it's pretty close now, but I cannot fault you giving it to Kareem, given he literally walked in the league and was pretty much like 32, 14, and God knows how many blocks.
And you know what astounded me with Kareem during his 6th season in Milwaukee, he missed about 20 games or 20.
He broke his hand punching a stanchion. That was the biggest one. Yeah. And I think he scratched a cornea once too.
Oh, really?
In preseason, but I don't know if he missed that many games. There's a fascinating what if there, like the year before he left, he was hurt and sat out and they lost a bunch. And I always wondered,
they went 3-14.
Yeah. Like what if he plays? What if he plays and that never happens? Is there a chance to keep him? I don't think so. The cultural thing was very, very different back then. It's a whole thing, but yeah, sorry. More talk.
No, I love it. Because it is a fascinating what if, but like, what was I going to say? Oh yeah. During the first 5 years of his career in Milwaukee, he was 14th in the league in total assists in those 5 years from the center position, which is just
so good, dude.
Absolutely insane. I originally thought Giannis, and then point is, if Giannis plays the season in Milwaukee, which he will, Giannis is going to overtake him. So it's kind of a discussion. 2
really quick Kareem things. A guy they literally banned the dunk in college for because he just did it so much, which is imagine if they just banned threes for Steph, and they didn't let freshmen play on the UCLA team when he was there, so they won without him. But he and the freshmen beat the actual UCLA varsity team in practice. And it's like,
who was they were the defending champions, correct?
Yeah. They won before him, and they certainly won with him. He's won at every level. One of the greatest basketball, maybe the greatest overall player ever, if not the greatest NBA player ever.
I still think Kareem has the greatest career of any player ever. I think LeBron is making it.
Yeah, no kidding.
A really interesting discussion. And I have Duncan third in that one again for career. But again, that's like, it's such an amorphous, like, how do you consider Bird's career or Magic's career versus Duncan's career? You know, one was,
you throw in Russell and then it's like, oh God, what do we do? Or Wilt. What do we do with Wilt? What do we do with Wilt and Russell is my favorite. Like, dude, I have no idea, man.
We should do a separate podcast completely on this stuff. The most interesting thing for me with Wilt, but very briefly, Wilt was not in serious consideration as the best player in the history of any franchise.
No.
I think the closest he comes is with the Golden State Warriors franchise. And Steph it's not close at this point. Steph has
No. Yeah. It was a good argument in 2015, but by this point, that's moving so often and everything else with Wilt. Yeah.
And Wilt won 3 MVPs for that franchise too. Which is crazy. Okay. I've kept you for too long. This was great. Ty, can you, let me say it for everybody, congratulations. Can I say what it's for?
Sure. Yeah.
You get married in
a couple days
later this week.
Yeah.
So, congratulations to that. And, just let the folks at home, know where they can find you.
Absolutely. Everything we do is at gspn.info. We got Bucks, Milwaukee Brewers, Green Bay Packers podcast, a film podcast, all the fun links, our Discord, everything is there. So after you subscribe and rate 5 stars, review, notification bell, everything for this podcast, feel free to go check out mine if you want. gspn.info. You can find all of it.
My daughter's very excited.
She's super excited. Right now. She's a great listener.
Subscribe, rate, and review. Ty, thank you so much for taking a few minutes. I'm sure we'll talk again very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.